Before we begin, I need to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly, even if no one else can hear you. Are you tired? Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. The deeper exhaustion that comes from living the same painful story on repeat. The bone-deep weariness of recognizing your own patterns, but feeling powerless to break them. If you're listening to this, there's a reason. You're here because something inside you recognizes that your struggles aren't random. You're here because you've started to suspect that the universe might be trying to teach you something, and you're ready to listen. So let me ask you this. You know that feeling, when life circles back and hits you with the same struggle, the same heartbreak, the same dead end? You think you've outgrown it, escaped it, healed from it, and then out of nowhere, it returns. The same kind of partner who makes you question your worth. The same boss who doesn't value your effort. The same money troubles that tighten your chest. The same inner voice whispering, not good enough. And you wonder, why me? Why does this keep happening? Haven't I suffered enough? Haven't I already learned this lesson? Maybe it's a job interview where you freeze up again, despite all your preparation and all the confidence affirmations you practiced in the mirror. Maybe it's watching yourself repeat the same patterns in love, choosing people who are emotionally unavailable, or pushing away those who truly care before they can hurt you first. Maybe it's the way you sabotage your own success just as things start going well, as if some part of you believes happiness itself is dangerous territory. You've read the books. You've done the therapy. You've made the vision boards and repeated the affirmations until they lost all meaning. You know better. You understand the psychology. You can explain your patterns to your friends with stunning clarity. So, why does it feel like you're trapped in some cosmic joke, where the universe keeps serving you the same bitter medicine? Here's what I want to share with you, what I've learned both from my own loops of pain and from gazing into the infinite spiral of galaxies above us. What if this repetition is not punishment? What if it's curriculum? I know that might sound like spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity, wrapped in pretty cosmic language. Trust me, I've been where you are. I've shaken my fist at the sky and demanded to know why I had to learn everything the hard way. Why other people seem to glide through life, while I stumbled over the same obstacles again and again. But here's what changed everything for me. The universe is not random. Just as stars circle their orbits with mathematical precision, just as planets swing back into the same alignments after eons of wandering, so too do the themes of your life return. Not to torment you, but to teach you. They keep coming back until you don't just notice them, but transform through them. Life is a cosmic classroom, and the lessons are not graded with red ink on standardized tests. They are etched in the way we love when it's scary, in the choices we make when no one is watching, in the courage we show when everything feels impossible, in the silence we finally break when our truth can no longer be contained. And until we integrate the wisdom, until we live the answer instead of just thinking it, until it becomes part of our cellular memory rather than just intellectual understanding, the universe, patient and infinite as starlight, will bring the test again, not out of cruelty, but out of love, the kind of fierce, unconditional love that refuses to let you settle for less than who you truly are. Consider the moon above us right now. Every night, it rises. Every month, it cycles from dark to full to dark again. Does it complain about repetition? Does it curse the pattern and demand something different? No. It understands that the rhythm serves a purpose. The tides follow its pull. Life on Earth depends on its faithful return. What seems like endless repetition is actually the heartbeat of creation itself. Your patterns have a purpose too. Tonight, I want to take you into this classroom. Not the classroom of fluorescent lights and anxiety-inducing tests, but the one of galaxies and inner echoes of quantum fields and beating hearts. We'll explore 5 cosmic insights into why life repeats its lessons, how to recognize the sacred pattern beneath the pain, and how, once you truly embody the teaching, you move on to a higher orbit of your existence. Because every repeated challenge is not evidence that you're broken. It's not proof that you're cursed or fundamentally flawed, or that the universe has it out for you specifically. It's an invitation, a persistent, loving invitation to become the person you were always meant to be, written in the stars long before you took your first breath. The universe is not testing you to watch you fail. It's calling you to remember who you really are, and you're ready to remember. I can feel it. That's why you're here. Number 1, the loop of orbits, why life circles back. Think about your patterns for a moment. Really think about them. Maybe it's always attracting friends who take more than they give. Maybe it's starting projects with wild enthusiasm only to abandon them when they get difficult. Maybe it's the way you shrink yourself small in rooms full of people, even though part of you knows you belong there. We often feel trapped in these cycles, like we're watching ourselves repeat the same movie over and over, but we can't change the ending. We blame bad luck. We blame other people. We blame our childhood, our circumstances, the alignment of the stars. But deep down, it feels like we're orbiting around the same invisible force, pulled back to the same place no matter how hard we try to escape. I remember my own cycle of choosing work that slowly crushed my spirit. Different companies, different titles, but always the same feeling. Invisible, undervalued, like I was speaking a language no one understood. I'd quit in frustration, promising myself I'd find something different. And yet, somehow, I'd end up in the same type of environment, with the same type of people, feeling the same familiar ache of not belonging. For years, I thought I was just unlucky, bad at choosing, maybe even cursed. But then I started studying the cosmos, and I realized something that changed everything. Planets don't wander aimlessly through space. They orbit because gravity pulls them back to the same path. Mercury completes its journey around the sun every 88 Earth days, returning to the exact same position in space with clockwork precision. Venus takes 225 days. Earth takes 365, but they all return. Now, unless an outside force changes its trajectory, a massive asteroid, the gravitational pull of another planet, the death of their star, they will continue the same orbit for millions, even billions of years. It's not stubbornness. It's physics. Life lessons are gravity. They are invisible forces that pull us back to the same emotional territory until something fundamental shifts in our inner landscape. Just as a planet's orbit is determined by its mass and the mass of what it orbits, our life patterns are determined by our inner gravitational field. Our beliefs about ourselves, our unconscious assumptions about what we deserve, our unhealed wounds that bend reality around them like black holes. The pattern repeats not because you're weak, but because the gravitational pull is still there. You can't escape gravity by running faster. You can only change your orbit by changing your mass, or by letting something more powerful pull you into a new trajectory. Your cycles are not accidents. They are gravitational pulls toward wisdom. They keep showing up until you shift your inner orbit, until the gravitational field of your consciousness changes. Notice the pattern, not with a harsh judgment you've grown so familiar with, but with the kind of curiosity you might have for a beautiful, mysterious planet. Ask yourself, what is the gravitational center of this pattern? What belief am I orbiting? What wound is pulling me back? Maybe you keep attracting unavailable people because part of you believes love has to be earned through suffering. Maybe you keep sabotaging success because deep down, you're afraid that if people really saw you shine, they'd leave. Maybe you keep choosing situations where you feel powerless because somewhere along the way, you learned that being small was safer than being seen. The lesson is not to judge these gravitational pulls, but to understand them, to see them as information about the invisible forces shaping your reality. Because once you understand the gravity, you can begin to shift it. What lesson is the universe asking you to learn here? What would it look like to change not just your actions, but the gravitational field of your belief system itself? Number 2, mirrors of the cosmos. People reflect what you haven't learned. 2, in a completely different way. Your boss dismisses your ideas. So does your mother. So does that person you're dating. Different faces, different relationships, different contexts, but always the same familiar pain. You start to wonder if you're wearing an invisible sign that says, "Treat me poorly," or "I don't matter." You might even start avoiding people altogether, thinking that if you can just control your environment enough, you won't have to feel that way anymore. I had a pattern of attracting people who would make me feel like I was too much, too intense, too deep, too sensitive. My college roommate would roll her eyes when I wanted to talk about anything meaningful. My first boss told me I needed to tone it down in meetings. Partners would complain that I was too emotional or overthinking everything. For the longest time, I thought I was surrounded by people who couldn't handle depth. I felt like an alien on a planet of shallow beings. But then something shifted, and I realized I wasn't attracting people who couldn't handle my intensity. I was attracting people who mirror my own discomfort with my intensity. The universe reflects itself in infinite patterns. Look at a fern leaf. It's made of smaller versions of itself, fractals spiraling inward. Look at a nautilus shell. The same spiral that governs its growth governs the shape of galaxies millions of light years away. From the branching of your lungs to the branching of lightning to the branching of river deltas, the same patterns emerge at every scale. This is not coincidence. This is the universe speaking to itself, recognizing itself, teaching itself through endless reflection and repetition. When you look at the people in your life, especially the ones who trigger you most, you're looking at cosmic mirrors. They're reflecting back to you the parts of yourself that you haven't fully owned, integrated, or healed. The universe uses other people as a communication system, showing you through their behavior what's still unresolved in your inner landscape. That person who makes you feel invisible, they're showing you where you make yourself invisible. That person who dismisses your feelings, they're reflecting back your own dismissal of your emotional world. That person who can't commit, they're mirroring your own fear of being fully seen and chosen. Every person is a mirror, especially the ones who push your buttons. And here's the thing that might blow your mind. They're not doing this consciously. They're not sitting around plotting to trigger your wounds. They're just being themselves. But the universe is using their natural way of being to show you what needs attention in your own psyche. This doesn't mean you should tolerate bad behavior or stay in harmful relationships. It means you should pay attention to the patterns before you cut and run. What is this person's behavior revealing about your relationship with yourself? If you keep attracting people who don't value your contribution, maybe you need to examine how you value your own contributions. If you keep attracting people who are unreliable, maybe you need to look at how reliable you are to yourself. If you keep attracting people who can't see your worth, maybe it's time to see your own worth so clearly that anyone who can't recognize it simply doesn't match your frequency anymore. The pattern repeats until you see what the reflection is teaching. Your own worth, your own boundaries, your own inner light, not to torture you, but to reveal you to yourself, to help you integrate the parts of yourself you've been unconsciously rejecting. When you truly accept and embody your own intensity, you stop attracting people who want you to dim it. When you truly value your own sensitivity, you stop attracting people who see it as a weakness. When you truly believe in your own worth, you stop attracting people who need you to prove it over and over again. The mirrors don't disappear, but they start reflecting back your wholeness instead of your wounds. Number 3, resistance is gravity. The more you avoid, the heavier it gets. Sometimes we run. We see the difficult conversation coming, and we change the subject. We feel the relationship ending, and we cling tighter, or we disappear completely. We know we need to make a career change, but we stay in the soul-sucking job because at least it's familiar. We avoid the honest choice, the necessary ending, the scary beginning. We think escape is freedom. We think if we can just avoid the uncomfortable thing long enough, it will go away on its own. We become masters of distraction, of numbing, of taking a long way around every emotional obstacle. But somehow, the problem grows stronger the more we resist it. The conversation becomes more necessary and more terrifying. The relationship becomes more toxic the longer we avoid addressing what's not working. The career change becomes more urgent and more impossible feeling with each passing month. I spent 3 years avoiding a conversation with my father about something that happened in my childhood. 3 years of feeling triggered every time I saw him, of walking on eggshells, of family gatherings that felt like performance art. I thought I was keeping the peace by not bringing it up. I thought I was being the mature one, the strong one, the one who could handle it alone. But the unspoken truth grew heavier between us. It started affecting my other relationships. I found myself unable to trust anyone fully. I carried this low-grade anger that I couldn't name. The thing I was avoiding was affecting everything else, like a black hole whose gravity bends all the light around it. In space, gravity doesn't weaken when you ignore it. In fact, the opposite is true. The closer you get to a massive object, the stronger its gravitational pull becomes. If you're near a black hole, trying to escape only accelerates your approach. The event horizon, the point of no return, grows closer with every moment of resistance. But here's what's fascinating. If you stop fighting the pull and instead use it strategically, you can actually slingshot yourself into a completely different trajectory. Spacecraft do this all the time. They use a planet's gravity not to be trapped by it, but to be launched beyond it with even more velocity than they had before. Avoidance in life works like resistance near a black hole. The thing you're trying to escape gains power from your resistance. It grows heavier, more dense, more inescapable. Your fear feeds it. Your avoidance gives it more gravitational pull over your entire life system. But when you stop running and start moving toward what you're afraid of, something miraculous happens. The very force that seemed like it would destroy you becomes a force that can launch you into a new orbit entirely. What you resist will persist, but not just persist, it will intensify. The lesson you're avoiding becomes a gravitational center around which everything else in your life starts to orbit. The conversation you won't have shapes every other conversation. The truth you won't speak creates silence in places where there should be connection. The risk you won't take keeps you trapped in increasingly small circles of possibility. But courage doesn't mean the gravity disappears. Courage means changing your relationship to the pull. Instead of being dragged toward what you fear, you begin moving toward it with intention, with curiosity, with the understanding that this scary thing might actually be the doorway to your freedom. Think about the thing you've been avoiding in your life. The conversation, the decision, the change, the truth. Feel how it's been growing heavier, how it's been affecting other areas of your life like a dark star pulling everything into its orbit. What if, instead of continuing to resist, you use that gravitational pull as fuel for transformation? What if the very thing you're most afraid of facing is actually the slingshot that could launch you into the life you've always dreamed of? Step toward the fear, and you may find it was only a shadow cast by your own light. The black hole you thought would destroy you might just be the portal to your next level of existence. Sometimes the only way out is through. Sometimes the thing that seems like the end of your world is actually the beginning of your real life. Number 4. Graduation of stars. Transformation ends a cycle. Think of the moment you finally responded differently. You remember it, don't you? That pivotal moment when the same old situation arose, but something inside you had shifted. Maybe you set the boundary you'd never been able to set before. Maybe you walked away from something that no longer served you. Maybe you chose forgiveness over resentment, or truth over keeping the peace, or your own path over everyone else's expectations. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like the movies where music swells and everything changes instantly. It was quiet, almost ordinary, but you felt it, the subtle shift, like stepping out an old skin you'd outgrown without even realizing it. The amazing thing is what happened next. The same type of situation that used to throw you into chaos suddenly arose again. But this time, you weren't the same person. The trigger was identical, but your response was completely different. Not because you forced yourself to act differently, but because you had become someone who naturally responded differently. I remember the first time someone tried to make me feel guilty for setting a boundary, and instead of crumbling or over-explaining or backing down, I simply said, "I understand you're disappointed, and I'm still not available for that." I didn't even think about it. It just came out of me like I'd been practicing that response my whole life. Later, I realized I had been practicing it. In every moment, I chose to honor my own needs instead of abandoning them for someone else's comfort. The transformation had been happening invisibly, and then suddenly it was visible in the world. Stars, too, graduate. A star doesn't orbit forever around the same gravitational center. It burns, evolves, transforms, and eventually transcends its original form entirely. Our sun is a middle-aged star, burning hydrogen in its core, stable in its current phase. But this isn't forever. In about 5 billion years, our sun will exhaust its hydrogen fuel and begin burning helium. It will expand into a red giant, then shed its outer layers and become a white dwarf, a dense, hot core no bigger than Earth, but containing most of the sun's original mass. Other stars, depending on their size, become neutron stars or black holes. Some become supernovas, explosions so bright they outshine entire galaxies, scattering their elements across space to birth new stars, new planets, new possibilities. The star cycle ends not through destruction, but through transformation into something entirely new. It graduates from one phase of existence to another, and in doing so, it often seeds a universe with the very elements that make new life possible. When you embody a lesson, not just understand it intellectually, but integrate it into your very being, you undergo a similar stellar transformation. You don't just change your behavior. You change the fundamental composition of your consciousness. You graduate from one orbit of existence to another. When you embody the lesson, not just think it, but live it, you graduate. The orbit breaks. You no longer attract the same tests, because you become someone new. The gravitational field of your consciousness has shifted, and you naturally attract different experiences that match your new frequency. This is why trying to change just your actions without changing your inner state often fails. It's like trying to change a star's light without changing what's burning in its core. The real transformation happens at the level of your being, and then your actions flow naturally from that new state. Think about a lesson you feel you've truly integrated. Maybe it's self-worth, maybe it's boundaries, maybe it's trusting your intuition. Notice how the external situations that use to challenge you in that area either stopped appearing, or they appear but don't shake you the way they used to. This isn't because you became perfect or because life got easier. It's because you transformed at a core level. The person who used to seek validation from unavailable partners doesn't just choose different partners. They become someone who no longer needs external validation to feel whole. The person who used to people please to avoid conflict doesn't just stop saying yes to everything. They become someone who values their own peace more than others' temporary approval. When you graduate from a lesson, you often find yourself in a position to help others who are still learning what you once struggled with. Your hard-won wisdom becomes a gift you can offer the world. Just as supernovas scatter elements that become the building blocks for new stars, your transformation becomes the raw material for others' growth. You realize that the pattern wasn't just about you. It was preparation for who you were meant to become. Every repetition was strengthening the muscles you'd need for your next level of existence. Every challenge was forging the elements of wisdom you'd eventually share with the world. The cycle ends, but the wisdom flows forward, seeding new possibilities you never could have imagined from inside the old orbit. Number 5, the cosmic classroom. You are both student and teacher. There's a beautiful moment that happens after you've learned a difficult lesson. You're going about your life, maybe feeling proud of how far you've come, when you encounter someone who's stuck exactly where you used to be, and your heart breaks open with recognition and compassion. Maybe it's a friend who's dating someone who treats them the way you used to allow yourself to be treated. Maybe it's a co-worker who's struggling with the same self-doubt you spent years overcoming. Maybe it's even a stranger on the internet whose story resonates so deeply with your old pain that you feel compelled to reach out. You want to save them the years of suffering you went through. You want to download all your hard-earned wisdom directly into their consciousness. You want to shake them gently and say, "Don't you see? You're so much more valuable than you think you are. You don't have to accept crumbs. You don't have to prove your worth over and over again." But then you realize something profound. They can't hear you yet, not because they're not smart enough or strong enough, but because they're not ready. They're still in the orbit you escaped, still being shaped by the gravitational pull of lessons they haven't yet learned. Your words might plant seeds, but they can't force the transformation. And in that moment of recognition, you understand that your pain wasn't wasted. It wasn't meaningless suffering or evidence that you were broken. It was preparation for this moment, when you could offer your presence as proof that healing is possible, that transformation is real, that no one is beyond the reach of their own becoming. When stars reach the end of their lives, they don't just disappear. They give their elements to the next generation. The iron in your blood was forged in the heart of an ancient star that lived billions of years ago. The oxygen you breathe, the calcium in your bones, the gold in your jewelry, all of it was created in stellar furnaces and scattered across the cosmos when those stars exploded in supernovas. Carl Sagan said it best, "We are made of star stuff." Every atom in your body, except hydrogen, was created inside a star. You are literally made from the transformed remains of stars that died, so you could live. The star didn't die in vain. Its death was actually the most generous act possible. It gave everything it had learned, everything it had become, to future generations. Its lessons became the building blocks for new worlds, new life, new possibilities it could never have imagined. This is the ultimate purpose of the cosmic classroom. You don't just learn for yourself. You learn so that your wisdom can become the foundation for others' growth. Your transformed consciousness becomes part of the field of possibility that others can draw from. Your healing contributes to the collective healing. Your evolution raises the frequency of the whole system. Your lessons, once learned, don't just free you, they feed others. You are both student and teacher in this cosmic classroom. You are both the star learning to burn brighter, and the star whose light becomes a foundation for new stars to be born. Every time you share your story, you're scattering elements that others can use to build their own transformation. Every time you choose love over fear, you're demonstrating that it's possible. Every time you break a generational pattern, you're freeing not just yourself, but all the generations that come after you. This is why your struggles matter. This is why your healing matters. This is why your growth matters. Not because you need to be perfect, but because your journey from unconsciousness to consciousness becomes a map for others who are traveling the same path. Think about the teachers who have appeared in your life. Not necessarily formal teachers, but the people whose presence showed you what was possible. Maybe it was someone who demonstrated healthy boundaries. Maybe it was someone who radiated self-acceptance. Maybe it was someone who chose authenticity over approval. They probably didn't even know they were teaching you, but their way of being became a beacon for your own transformation. You are that beacon for someone else. Your commitment to your own growth creates permission for others to grow. Your willingness to face your shadows shows others that they don't have to be afraid of their own darkness. Your journey from victim to victor becomes evidence that transformation is not just possible, but inevitable when we align with the natural impulse of the universe toward greater complexity, greater consciousness, greater love. The repetition stops when you integrate the lesson, but the wisdom flows forward, seeding new possibilities in the cosmic classroom of existence. You graduate from student to teacher, but you never stop learning. Each level of mastery reveals new mysteries to explore, new gifts to develop, new ways to serve the evolution of consciousness itself. This is the real purpose of the cosmic classroom. Not just to heal your individual wounds, but to transform your wounds into wisdom that can heal the world. Life repeats lessons not to punish, but to polish. Like planets orbiting their stars, like galaxies echoing the same spiral patterns across billions of light years, we circle until the orbit shifts, until we become someone new. The loops reveal what still needs healing. They're not evidence of our failure, but invitations to our freedom. Every time you find yourself in familiar pain, the universe is asking, what part of yourself are you still abandoning? What truth are you still avoiding? What love are you still withholding from others, from yourself? The mirrors show us what we haven't owned. Every person who triggers you is reflecting back an unintegrated aspect of your own consciousness. They're not doing this to hurt you. They're participating in the cosmic educational system, showing you through their behavior what still needs attention in your inner world. When you truly accept and embody all parts of yourself, you stop attracting mirrors that reflect your wounds and start attracting mirrors that reflect your wholeness. The gravity of resistance intensifies what we avoid. The very thing you're trying to escape grows heavier with your resistance, bending more and more of your life around its pull. But when you stop running and start moving toward what you fear, you discover that courage doesn't eliminate the gravitational pull. It transforms from a prison into a slingshot that can launch you into an entirely new orbit of possibility. The graduation of stars reminds us that transformation ends cycles. When you don't just understand a lesson but embody it, when it becomes part of your cellular structure, your energetic frequency, your automatic response to life, that's when the pattern breaks. You graduate not through force or willpower, but through becoming someone who naturally responds differently because you fundamentally change who you are. And finally, we see that we are not just learners. We are contributors to the cosmic classroom. Your struggles are not signs of failure. They are preparation for service. Every wound you heal, every pattern you break, every limitation you transcend becomes stardust for others' transformation. You are both student and teacher, both the one learning to shine brighter, and the one whose light helps others remember their own luminosity. Your struggles are not signs of failure. They are invitations to growth. Every repetition is the universe's way of whispering, "Not yet. Try again. This time, bring more of your truth. This time, remember who you really are." The cosmic classroom is not about perfection. It's about evolution. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about making new mistakes. It's not about avoiding all pain. It's about transforming pain into wisdom, wounds into wings, patterns into power. So I leave you with this question, and I invite you to let it live in your heart, not your head. What lesson keeps circling back in your life, asking to be seen? Is it self-worth that whispers you're not enough? Is it boundaries that blur when you need them most? Is it trust that feels too dangerous to give? Is it authenticity that hides behind masks of who you think you should be? What orbit are you still caught in? And what would it look like to respond differently this time? What would it look like to stop trying to escape the gravitational pull and instead use it as fuel for your transformation? The universe is patient. It will not rush you. Stars take millions of years to complete their evolution, and galaxies take billions. You have time. You have infinite opportunities to learn, to grow, to become. But remember this, you are never being punished. You are always being prepared. The lesson will keep returning until you're ready to graduate. And when you do, the cosmos itself celebrates, because another star has learned to shine with its true light, scattering stardust of wisdom that will see new growth across the infinite classroom of existence. What lesson is calling you home to yourself?